Analytic trig. These formulas will be provided to you on the exam, either on a yellow laminated paper or a blue laminated paper, I believe. But this is what we're going to use for this section. As we look at the first problem here, it says find the exact value of cosine of 5 pi over 12 by using sum or difference identity. So we have to figure out two values that either add or subtract to be 5 pi over 12. And when we look at this, I'm going to start with 2 pi over 12 plus 3 pi over 12. Because that does add to be 5 pi over 12. And when we simplify those fractions, are they going to be values that we know from the unit circle? And 2 pi over 12 is pi over 6. And we know pi over 6 in the unit circle. And 3 pi over 12 is pi over 4. We know that on the unit circle as well. So we're going to be using these values here. So cosine of pi over 6 plus pi over 4. It doesn't matter. If you have pi over 4 plus pi over 6, it's not going to make any difference. We're going to fill them back into the formula here. So this is going to be cosine of pi over 6 times the cosine of pi over 4 minus, look back at your formula, minus, and then it's going to be sine of pi over 6 sine of pi over 4. Well, what does the cosine of pi over 6 equal? It equals the square root of 3 over 2. What does the cosine of pi over 4 equal? It equals the square root of 2 over 2. Sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. Sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. And as we finish this problem here, or get close to finishing it, we get radical 6 over 4. Remember, we multiply the tops of the fractions together and the bottoms of the fractions together. 1 times square root of 2 is square root of 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And then lastly, square root of 6 minus square root of 2 divided by 4. Find the exact value of sine of 22.5 by using the half angle identity. And nice that it tells us to use the half angle identity. And what I know is that 22.5 is half of 45. So if we rewrite this problem, it's going to be sine of 45 divided by 2. And once we've got that value filled in, then we can use that value because we know what sine of 45 equals. By the way, if you prefer, sine of 45 is the same thing as sine of pi over 4. I know that that helps me. I tend to work in radians. I don't tend to work in degrees. But if we fill this in, it's going to be plus or minus here. And then it's going to be 1 minus cosine of 45 all divided by 2. The thing to think about here is we're finding the sine of 22.5, and what quadrant is 22.5 in? And that's going to be in quadrant 1, which means that when we finish this problem, we're going to have a positive value for this. And now we know everything that we need to know to finish here. We're going to end up with 1 minus, well, the cosine of 45. And I should have written cosine over here, but cosine of 45 is the square root of 2 over 2, all divided by 2. And that's all underneath the radical, so we need to be careful with that. But we're going to take 1 minus square root of 2 over 2, and in fact it's 1 over 1. So we're finding the common denominator, and when we find the common denominator between 1 and 2, it's going to be 2. This is going to be 2 over 2. Minus, you can't see my minus sign very well, minus square root of 2 over 2. So we can simplify that a little bit. I'm going to go over here. And it's going to be 2 minus the square root of 2 divided by 2. That's from the top of that fraction. Then all divided by 2. And we can rewrite this a little bit more. This is going to be 2 minus the square root of 2 over 2 divided by 2 over 1. Remember, when dividing, don't ask why. Flip the second one and multiply. So this is going to be 2 minus the square root of 2 over 2 times 1/2. Which didn't work out pretty well for us because we're going to get darn close to finishing when we multiply. Still multiplying the tops of the fraction, and we get 2 minus the square root of 2. Because 2 minus the square root of 2 times 1 is 2 minus the square root of 2. And the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. The thing is, when we finish this, we said, again, that this is going to be positive. We cannot do anything to 2 minus the square root of 2 all underneath the square root. But we can take the square root of 4, and that's going to allow us to finish this problem, which is going to be 2 minus the square root of 2, and then down here, square root of 4 is 2. What is the exact value of sine of 15? Well, for non-Inspire calculators, we can use our calculator on this particular problem to figure out the answer here. We need to be in the correct mode. So I'm going to go to mode. Maybe I'm going to go to mode. Mode. And maybe third time's a charm. Mode. Okay, I was in the right space. Sorry. And down here we're in radians, but we need to be in degrees. So I'm going to change to degrees. And then we'll click out of there. And what we're going to look at here is, well, what's the sine of 15? And it gives us that decimal there. And then we're going to type in the rest. So I'm going to use my fraction button, alpha y equals, enter. And our first value is the square root of 2 minus the square root of 6, all divided by 4. Not the same. If we try the next one, alpha y equals, we've got square root of 6 plus square root of 2 divided by 4. Not the same value. Alpha y equals, for letter C, square root of 6 minus square root of 2, all divided by 2. Nope, so hopefully it's letter D, square root of 6 minus square root of 2 divided by 4. I'm going to type in the sine of 15 one more time, and what we see is that they match. It's a matter of typing in there. Now, on problem number 4, we can still, again, use our calculators, but we need to go back here to the mode. And we're going to put it back into radians. And then I'm going to clear this out just to get rid of that. So now it's going to be the tangent of 7 pi divided by 12. There's our decimal. And then we can type these in. Negative 2 plus the square root of 3. Not matching. 2 minus the square root of 3. Still doesn't match. Negative 2 minus the square root of 3. And sure enough, there it is. It matches.